Friends, do you ever find yourself wondering what all is in that ground meat you just purchased at your local supermarket? Why is it always bright and red on the outside, but the brown in the center? And that smell, is that okay? Are you looking to eat healthier? Do you want better tasting food? Are you looking to save money? Then you should really think about grinding your own meat at home. And I know that this can be intimidating for some, needing to know what equipment is required and what techniques are best to use to produce a quality product. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you the equipment. I'm going to explain how to set it up, demonstrate how to prep and grind your first batch, and then clean and sanitize the equipment after your use. And as a bonus, I'm going to show you how to make my special chili recipe with the ground beef that we're going to grind in this video. But before we get started, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like and share this video. It's what keeps the channel going. Thank you. So okay, now, one of the first questions you may have is, what all equipment do I need and what is it going to cost me? Well, just like everything else in life, it depends on how deep you want to go, because you can start at around $30 or end up in the thousands. So let's break it down. Of course, the first thing you're going to need is a meat grinder. Now, the one I chose is this Weston number 8. It's a number 8 size meat grinder. I bought it through Home Depot for just under $80 with tax and everything. You can find cheaper ones on Amazon, and Harbor Freight has one that's in the mid-60s, but this one has a much stronger motor. It has stainless steel grinding plates, and that's pretty important. You don't want to rust while they're in storage. And it has a 1-year warranty. I thought it was the best deal on the market as far as November 2023. Now, you can always break out your grandma's manual grinder or get a new one on Amazon for about 30 bucks. That is, if you want to look like Popeye. Or if you're richy rich, you can spend thousands of dollars on a commercial grinder that can put the whole hog in there and grind it all at once. But I feel a number 8 is the perfect size for the home chef. And they all consist of the same parts anyway, and they all work the same. So this video is pertinent to whatever grinder you choose. Alright, here's what it comes with. Inside this meat stomper is your attachments, including the fine and the extra coarse plates. And the medium one is already installed on the grinding head. You have a spacer for when you use the sausage stuffer. A spare drive gear, which is cool, it came with extra parts. And this here is your sausage stuffing tube. And everything fits nice and neat inside the meat stomper. Put everything back in here and I'll show you. Okay. So we're going to leave the 2 plates out because we're going to wash those, but this is the stomper. This is what you push the meat down in here with. But I'm not going to use that. I bought this little wooden one off of Amazon for $6. It's going to be a lot more convenient, and it's going to allow me to keep the other parts nice and clean and put away. So let's look at how this thing works. We're going to remove the locking ring here that unscrews. And then this is the grinding plate here, which we have 3 different sizes in this model. And this is your knife. Now take a look at this. There's the sharp side goes against the plate. And as it spins, it cuts the meat as it goes through the holes. Now what I see is some people put it in backwards. Like, no, that's not the way it goes. This is the way it goes right here. Take a look. See the rounded side towards the machine, the flat sharp side against the plate. So make sure you get it in there oriented right. Next, behind that is the auger. This is the piece that spins and pushes the meat forward towards the blade. The blade is positioned right here, and the plate. So as it spins, the meat gets pushed forward, shoved through the plate, and the knife or blade slices it off. That's your meat grinder. Alright, so now we need to take the head assembly off. On my model, the Weston, there's a push button. Your model may be different depending on the manufacturer, so you need to consult your owner's manual. But that's the head assembly. Now, I want to show you something else. The auger on the Weston, it goes right in here. That's how it drives. So the black part is the drive motor. The Weston came with an extra metal drive gear, so that makes it pretty durable. Another selling point of the Weston, why I liked it. Here's the start and reverse. So it has a push button steady on and a momentary switch for reverse. And that's pretty important. If you overload it, you want to be able to back up, especially if you're using a small plate like this one here. Alright, so now we need to unbag everything, since it's brand new, and get it in some hot soapy water and rinse off all the Chinese lubrication, millings, whatever from manufacturing, because we don't want any of that in our ground meat. So all this is going to go in the sink with some hot soapy water, wash it down, and then we're going to dry it and lubricate it. Now I want to mention a couple important steps that we don't want to skip, and then we'll move ahead to prepping our meat. First, do not wash this equipment in the dishwasher. The aluminum pieces, due to the heat and chemicals in the dishwasher, it'll tarnish them. You'll lose the shine. You'll actually see a little bit of oxidation form on it. And you don't want that, because you want to keep these things as smooth and shiny as possible. That's what's going to keep it easy to clean. So that is one thing about the meat grinder, is keeping it clean, keeping it sanitary. That's very important. Alright, same with the drying. We don't want our beautiful, shiny machine to have water spots all over it. Alright, so make sure you dry it good. Put it on a rack like I have here. I put an old, that blue towel, that's just an old car drying towel. I just had it because I don't want water puddling up on my counter. So I throw that down underneath my cookie rack. I throw everything on there. It can drip all day long. It's not going to hurt anything. And that rag absorbs it up. Now, lastly, these parts. My particular machine came with stainless steel grinding plates and a stainless steel knife. Yours might come with just normal steel, high carbon steel. Nothing wrong with that. They're sharp, but they will rust very quickly. If you don't dry it good, if you don't protect it with some kind of vegetable oil or silicone food safe spray, you're going to have problems. You're going to go to use it and it's going to be all rusted up on you. Alright, so either buy a stainless steel one, but even these stainless plates, I'm going to spray them down. I don't want to skip that step, okay? But before we do, we need to make sure all that water is out. So dry them good, both sides, pat them out and put them on the rack and let them sit on there a little while. Then we can take some of this food grade silicone spray from LEM. This came with the brush kit, and it is specially made for stuffers and meat grinders, just like the picture on the label here. Alrighty, so I'm going to take that and I'm going to liberally spray everything down, inside and out. Alright, it's food safe, don't worry about it. You just don't want to go drinking it, but it's okay for it to have a little bit on there. And once these plates are dry, we're going to spray them down good. Alright, and I'm going to take the plates I'm not going to use. Eventually they'll all end up in the bag, but right now this is the one I'm using. So we're going to take these other two, stick them in the bag here. And even after I put them in the bag, hit it a couple more times. And now we're sure. Alright, that can be set aside. Now it's time to assemble the grinder. Get ready for our first grind. So, on goes the head assembly. Push the button on mine. Might be different on yours. Consult your manual. but this is how it is on the Weston. So now the auger is going to get the nice metal gear, is going to go in there, and we're going to set that in there. Now some people call this the worm gear, but I call it the auger. All right, the knife. It goes in, like I said, with the sharp side facing out. But let's talk about this blade for real quick before we finish putting it in there. Take a look here. See how the arms of the blade are straight? This is what you want to see when selecting a machine. Some are curved and they can't easily be resharpened. These straight arms can easily be resharpened multiple times. All right, so once again, sharp side out. So we put that in there, and this is square on the worm gear. So you want to put that in there, press in and turn it until it seats on that square drive of the auger. Here's our coarse plate. If you look, it's got a little notch right there, and that's going to line up with a little place here on the head assembly. And then here goes the retainer nut. Spin that on there. Alright, just kind of snug it up, not super tight yet. I'll show you why in a minute. Let's go ahead and put the tray on. And I'm sure some of y'all are wondering, John, where's the beef? Right there it is. Now this is just a plain old chuck roast I got on sale and I stuck in the freezer. And it's mostly thawed. But the prep's going to be pretty much the same if you're using sirloin or wagyu or tri-tip or whatever, brisket. It's all pretty much the same. You want to get it semi-frozen. It makes it much easier to slice up, and you want to set a bowl out that's big enough to hold the whole roast. So the knife we're going to be using today is my Mercer 8-inch chef knife. Now this is a fantastic knife. I got a video review of this knife, and you can check my playlist and learn a little bit more about it. But it's a knife you can get for less than $40 on Amazon, and it is just one of the most fantastic chef knives I've ever used. Look at how it's just eating through this chuck roast like it's butter. Yeah, you definitely want to go to my playlist and find my review of the Mercer 8-inch chef knife. Best bang for the buck you can get. So, anyways, you can see I'm just slicing these into about 3/4 inch slices, maybe a little bit bigger. And what I'm going to do is, once I get them all sliced, I'm going to come back, slice them down the middle, and then slice them in half. Alright. Now, there is some fat in here, and technically if you wanted to, you could go in and slice it out. And if you weren't going to chill the meat beforehand, I recommend you go in and separate the lean meat from the fat meat. But you know, I'm running this through a coarse plate, and I'm going to chill the meat to an almost frozen state, and I'm cubing it up pretty small here, so I don't think I'm going to have any problems. Now, beef fat is a lot more forgiving than pork fat. Pork fat will go in there and they call it smearing. If you don't really get it cold and almost frozen, it'll get up in your plate between the knife and the grinding plate and just kind of smear. And if you're a sausage maker, that is a big no-no. People grade your sausage by how defined your fat is. I don't have a video where I carved up a pork butt, but what I want to do is I want to show you one that I cut up and put in the freezer here in a second, and show you how I separate the lean meat from the fat. So I got the pork butt that I cut up, separated in 2 Ziploc bags. Here's all the fat cap and the real fatty pieces. Now I put it in there and I try to get it as thin as I possibly can. I flatten it out with my hand, work the air out of the bags, and lay them flat in the freezer. The trick here is they're going to de-thaw quicker, and I'll be able to bust up this fatty section and get it in the grinder while it's still somewhat frozen. So I just wanted to show you that real quick. Now if you're doing chicken or fish, or anything with bones in it and skin, you're going to want to separate the skin, get the bones out of it. I know some people buy these meat grinders to make dog food, but the truth of the matter is, in a machine like this that's electric powered, you have the auger screw that I showed you. That doesn't actually cut up the bones or anything. It doesn't get cut up until it's pushed all the way up against the plate. So you're kind of working against yourself. You really can't get a bone to work through that auger. What you're trying to do is you're trying to force it in with the stomper and break the bones so that they work their way down. You're best off just separating the bones from the meat and busting them up with a hammer. Maybe put a rag over it, bust them up with a hammer or something like that, if that's what you want to do. I just thought I'd mention that real quick. Alright, so we're going to get this out of here, clean our knife and our board, and this is going to go in the freezer and get chilled nice before we grind. So a minute ago I told you don't torque that retaining nut down tight on there yet against the plate. Here's the power button. So let me show you why I said don't do that. Because what we want to do is just snug it, okay, up against the plate, and then turn it on for a minute. Turn it back off. Check it, snug it a little bit more. Turn it on for a minute. Let it run. Turn it off. And run it in reverse, then forward. And what we want to do is we want to seat that plate up against the knife. Remember how I showed you how the sharp edges of the knife scrape against the flat surface of the plate, and that's what cuts the meat? Well, we're wanting to knock off any burrs or imperfections, and we're doing that just slowly easing it in there. So those 2 machine surfaces match up to each other slowly. And then we want to get the head very tight before we start grinding. And also you're going to want to check that nut periodically if you're doing long sessions of grinding, and make sure it doesn't come loose, because the meat will get between the plate and the knife, and no bueno. It's not going to grind very nice. Alright, and the last thing we want to do before we get our meat out of the freezer is make sure we have a tray big enough to hold it. Nice pair of tongs. That's going to allow us to load the meat and not get our hands nasty, because we want to keep everything clean and sanitary. Then a knife in case you need to clean off the knife here, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. And then of course our little wooden stomper. Okay, when I use wood utensils like this, I like to wet them first. I think it just makes it easier to clean at the end. I don't like sticking a dry one because it's going to suck all the meat juices right in. Alright, and here is our chilled chuck. As you can see, it's very firm, but it's not stuck together. It's just nice solid little pieces, and we're going to get ready to go ahead and grind that. So let's go ahead and get everything in place. Let's turn on the machine. Make sure we got it going the right direction. Alright, let's start getting some meat up here in the hopper. Now remember, it takes a minute because it has to get down there into the auger, and that auger has to push it, so that's what the stomper's here for. So let's just be careful. We're not going to force it in there, we're just going to guide it in there. Let that auger grab it, and as you can see, it starts to grind it. Alright, and This machine seems like it's doing pretty good. Let's get some more loaded up here. This is going to make quick work of it. I'm going to run out of meat very quickly. You can see here that coarse plate in there. What kind of grind you get. I think it's perfect for chili. I like a kind of a meaty grind, heavy grind, whatever you want to call it, coarse grind. But we can always run it back through a smaller plate later if you wanted a real fine grind. And here you can see down inside the hopper, you can see the auger. And you can notice, that is what they call the throat. And the bigger the grinder will have a bigger throat. This one you have to cut the meat up kind of small. This is a number 8, but something like a number 12, which is intermediate, or they go up to 32, and they got some real big ones. I mean, you can really chuck some big pieces in there. So the bigger the grinder, the bigger piece, the less time you have to spend cutting it up, and the less time you spend grinding. So, but like I said, number 8, worked through this 2 pounds worth of meat pretty darn quickly, and I don't really need to do a batch bigger than 2.5 pounds at a time. So what? I took an extra 5 minutes if I want to do 5 pounds. So we still got some meat in here. So what we need to do is go ahead and take the nut back off, the retainer nut, and I want to make sure that's what we keep a little knife or something here. You could use this. I use sometimes a chopstick. Take out chopsticks are handy to have around, and it'd be better to use that than my knife, but I'm being stupid here. Don't do what I do. But anyway, you got to pop that plate out of there, and of course the plate's gonna have meat stuck in there still. Like I said, those little takeout Chinese chopsticks are great for this, because you can just stick them in there and knock the meat right out of the hole. Throw them in the trash when you're done, because they're free after all, right? Okay, so either way, just work it out of there. You don't want to use all that meat, stick it in the bowl. You got your knife in there, be careful, it's sharp now, so don't cut yourself. Pull that out, and see you got this ring here. That's your connective tissue. Alright, that's why you want to freeze it, because if you don't freeze it, you'll get more of that. This meat actually thawed out a little bit on me because I was filming and I let it get a little too cold. That's why you see so much. And then I know it's not real appetizing, that little ring there. Looks like something else, but it's just ground beef, just like this. And I will say that is some nice chili meat right there. So how hard is this thing to clean? Let's see. You push the button, pop that off. Make sure you don't have no meat in there. Throw that in the bowl. Everything's right in here, the knife, the head. We don't have to clean the unit because we didn't touch it with our nasty hands. We used these tongs like I recommended. Now we just take this over to the sink. Let the parts soak in some soapy hot water for a little bit. And I break out my grinder cleaning kit from LEM. I got it for 23 bucks off of Amazon. It includes all these brushes. It also included that can of food grade silicone that we lubricated everything and protected with earlier. That came in the kit, all for 23 bucks. If you went to Bass Pro or something, you probably paid 23 bucks just for that can of silicone food grade lubricant. So anyway, these brushes are specially designed to get inside the head, to get inside all the nooks and crannies. And it's got all different sized brushes, individually sized to fit the grinding plates, also your stuffing tube, and that's why they have these long handles. It's really a great deal. Good piece of equipment. So back to price, we got right under 80 bucks for the grinder, We got $23 for the cleaning kit here, and $6 for the this piece here, the stomper. So 80, 23, that's 103, 110 bucks. 110 bucks, and we got everything we need to get going. All right, so let me get these clean. We're going to dry them. We're going to lubricate them with our lubricating spray. And then we're going to move on to making some chili out of that ground beef. So we got a 2.5 pounds of ground beef here, so we need a decent sized pan. So I don't know, I think this has got to be at least 6-quart pan. I've had it a long time. I usually cook my chili in here because it gives me plenty of room. I just don't really like cooking in a deep pot. So we're just going to slowly introduce this ground beef in there and start browning it. And once we get it browned, we're going to want to drain it, get rid of all that fat. And then we're going to reduce the heat on the pan a little bit and introduce some chopped up peppers and some chopped up garlic and a whole onion chopped up very fine. You don't want big chunks of onions in there. Now this is a jalapeno. I usually use serrano, but they didn't have any serrano, so I went with a jalapeno and some fresh garlic I chopped up. And it's a Vidalia onion. So we're going to start just by putting the peppers and garlic in there for a minute and just let that get a little brown. Let that pan start warming up again before we add our onions. And then we're going to let the onions just cook and simmer in there for a little while until they get nice and buttery. And then we're going to add 2 to 3 large tomatoes. Now you want to chop these tomatoes or dice them very nice and fine. You don't want a bunch of big pieces of skin in there. That's the trick. Just make sure you slice them to where the skin is getting chopped up in little pieces. That way it's just a lot easier on the digestion, and it looks better and it tastes better in the palate. So we cook those tomatoes, and when they start looking about right, we add our ground beef back in that we already browned. Mix that in. And just get it all stirred in there good. 1 can of tomato sauce. Now I forgot to buy canned goods when I went to the store, so I'm using up what I had in the cupboard. So Publix is all I had. And this is the only thing I had for beans. I usually go with a smaller dark red bean or a chili bean, but that's what I had. So it's just gonna have to work, right? And for my chili seasoning, I really like the McCormick Original Chili. I think it has the best flavor, and it's a lot cheaper than trying to buy your own spices and make your own blend. So that's what I use. I try to catch it on sale, buy one get one, and then I stock up on it. Put 1 packet in for every pound of chili you have. Stir it in. Let it cook down for about 20 minutes and it's ready to eat. Serve it with some sharp cheddar and some sour cream, and boy, you got a nice meal there. Now, I know it's not a real fancy recipe, but let me tell you, when you use the fresh ingredients, it really makes a difference. Grinding your own chuck has such a different flavor. Then you can use the same technique, making hamburgers, brisket burgers, smash burgers. That's a big fad now. So all your custom blends, all that, a lot of cool things you can do with a meat grinder. Now, I'm going to have a video number 2 that is going to be coming out in about a week. And that's going to be on using the meat grinder to make sausage. I'm going to make some breakfast sausage links. I'm also going to introduce you to some more equipment that I have. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you did. Please share the video, it helps out the channel. And don't forget to check out my knife giveaways. Other than that, thanks for viewing.